Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
You see Santa Claus tonight? You better run, boy. You better run for your life.
But Mother Superior, it's Santa Claus.
Now I have another reason to hate Christmas.
Now that hell is full, I wonder where you will go.
The caller is in the house. The calls are coming from the house.
You're my family now.
But if you're bad boys and girls, your name goes in the bad boys and girls book, and I'll bring you something horrible.
Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus.
The All-American Spook Show Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the All-American Spook Show Horror Podcast. I'm Josh and I'm joined here with Donny.
Hey.
And usually we got either Will and or the Professor Smoke, but both of them are on assignment, so it's going to be Donny and I traveling down through part 2 of Holiday Horror, Spookshow Spotlight on Holiday Horror. And this time, well, on part 1, just to recap, we talked about all the Thanksgiving horror movies.
Hanukkah.
We talked about the Hanukkah horror, and then we talked about New Year's horror. So we purposely skipped Christmas and went straight to New Year's on that one because, far less movies to talk about on all three of those holidays, horror-wise, compared to Christmas. This is a pretty thick fucking list of movies, and I'm sure there's some that we didn't even put on this list. But I think we've pretty much got a good grasp on a lot of it here. I'm sure there's a few we've missed, but I think we got most, if not all. And we're also going to go through a little list of the top grossing Christmas horror movies, and then we'll go through the list of, on the last episode, we went through IMDb's highest rated Thanksgiving horror list. This time I've got Rotten Tomatoes' highest rated Christmas horror list. So this is pretty interesting as far as comparing the highest rated to the highest grossing, and then of course some of our own favorites, and a lot of these movies we've already talked about too, because this is the third year in a row where we've been able to do 2 Christmas horror movies. So we've actually we'll actually be doing, I think, our 6th Christmas horror movie when we do The Ginger Dead Man next week on episode 87. So lots to talk about here, and we'll get to it in just a second. But before we dive into it, I'll go ahead and throw out the usual information. If you wanted to email us, contact us, good, bad, indifferent, whatever, any questions, you can do that on allamericans.spookshow@gmail.com. You can find us over on Twitter. Our handle is @AASpookShow if you want to DM us or message us any good tidings. We've had some interactions, with some fans over there here recently, so it's always a fun time over on our Twitter feed. Of course, same deal on our Instagram, our Facebook, the Slasher app. You can find us on all those by searching for All American Spook Show. We have our YouTube channel where the main attraction there is every Wednesday we do a live stream at 9 p.m. East called Deadline Horror News Live, where we go through just the latest headlines in horror, other goings-ons, horror anniversaries, fan conventions, whatever is going on that week. We talk about that every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. East on our YouTube channel. And there's a Linktree link down in the show notes of this episode. If you scroll down, you should see it. You click on that, and there are links to all these things that I just talked about, all of our socials, the YouTube page, and of course, our TeePublic page is on there as well, where we have our logoed merchandise, other cool designs, everything. So that helps us out. If you want to wear a cool Spook Show shirt, and Donnie, you can speak to that too. Some of the material they use on some of those shirts is really comfortable. It's good stuff.
Yeah, Tri-Blend. I've gotten to where you've got the $6 shirts, website or whatever, but you have the kind of like the basic run-of-the-mill T-shirts or whatever, but they're some of the more premium type of blends, the Tri-Blend that TeePublic has. It's just, honestly, it's one of the softest, if not the softest shirt, I own. But it's to the point where I don't want to buy any other shirt.
Yeah. Well, they've got tons of options over there. Like I said, we have a handful of because I think we've had like 3 or 4 main logos for the show All those are
Yes.
on there. Plus, we've got other designs that we put up on there. Lots of cool stuff. And they do more than shirts, too. Like, they have masks, I think, like mugs, notebooks, I think. Just all kinds of random stuff that they'll put your designs on. So all that stuff's available. Like I said, the link's there in the link tree. And, of course, the big thing is our Patreon page, patreon.com/AASpookshow. Levels starting at like $1 all the way up to like a goofy $1,000 a month level, that no one will ever do. But hey, go check it out. Patreon.com/AASpookshow. And every Tuesday we have a new video mini-sode where the main attraction there is the Library of the Professor. And a couple of times we've had to dip in when Professor couldn't be there, and it would be the Library of Josh and Donny. So that literally, we just had that, what was it, last week? We just had one of those. So it's always a good time every Tuesday. And plus other things too, like we do a monthly poll that only if you're a patron on our Patreon, you can vote on that. Basically every month we give you 3 choices for a movie that we're going to watch the following month. So you can check our socials and everything to see what the 3 choices are, or you can go over to patreon.com/AASpookshow, sign up. I think it's at least the $3 level, just $3 a month, and you can vote. You get these video mini-sodes, and I think it's starting at the $5 level a month. You get early access to episodes because our new episodes come out every Monday at 6 p.m. East. If you're over there, you get it early. Like, no specific time or date, but you're going to get it sooner than every Monday at 6 p.m. East. So lots of stuff going on in the Spook Show universe, lots of options. You can see us on YouTube, Patreon, and of course every Monday the new episode. So I guess with all that out of the way, and we can go ahead and dive into the Christmas horror list. Now, like I said, this is a pretty thick list, and without the professor being here, he can't dive in. We can't dive into some of these as deep as we normally would, since Donnie and I haven't seen a lot, even half as many as Smokus. I can guarantee you that. I mean, I've seen a good handful of these, but nowhere near what he's seen. I'm going to assume you're probably in the same category. So
yeah, likely.
So we'll start at the very beginning. Like the earliest thing that I could find as far as Christmas and horror related thing was literally all the way. This was 120 years ago. A UK silent film called Scrooge or Marley's Ghost. And I'm sure it was very brief. I think back then, like, late 1800s, early 1900s, a lot of those silent films, they could be anywhere from like a minute up to maybe like 10, 15 minutes long. And that was about the max for the longest time there. But I'm sure it's brief. I've never seen that particular one, but that's the first one that I could find. And then you have to fast forward all the way from 1901 to 1916, where you find another UK silent film called The Right to Be Happy. Literally fast forward 20 years later. From what I could tell, this is the first United States Christmas horror film called The Devil Doll from 1936. 1944, you actually had 2 that came out. Now, I should say before I continue, a lot of these, I'm sure, I'll quantify the same way when we were talking about it on the last, holiday horror. Some of these are like, well, they're not necessarily directly Christmas related. It just so happens that like whatever is happening in these movies happens around the holidays or around Christmas or whatever. So sometimes they may or may not have anything directly to do with Christmas at all. Just kind of throwing that out there.
Yeah, they may mention something about Santa Claus or
somebody might in passing say Merry Christmas, and then that's literally the only connection to Christmas it might be. So it just so happens to take place in the last week of December. So boom, Christmas horror. But in 1944. Christmas Holiday, and same year, The Curse of the Cat People. 1945, there was an anthology movie, of all things. Now, this looks to be like one of the very first anthology or holiday anthology movies. 1945, Dead of Night. Then, once again, you fast forward, 16 years, and you got Blast of Silence. Then, 10 more years. So, like, you can see for, like, basically the better part of 70 years, there really weren't many choices if you wanted to get your horror on at Christmas. Because in 1971, you got Whoever Slew Auntie Roo.
Whoever Slew Auntie Roo.
So that just recently, literally, I think within the last few months or so, celebrated its 50th anniversary of that one.
Yeah.
Then there was a TV film in 1972 called Home for the Holidays. Then we start cranking it up a little bit. Same year, Silent Night, Bloody Night. That one's definitely a classic. I've seen that one. So I think that's the first one on this list that I know I've actually seen. Yeah. And another one, same year. Now this was a holiday, not necessarily, I guess it's kind of a holiday anthology, but like there was a couple other different stuff that I don't think necessarily had anything to do with holidays, but there was one in there in the original Tales from the Crypt movie in 1972 where it was, I can't remember the specific segment, but it was about like a dude dressed like Santa killing people. So
there you go.
That's the relation. Yeah, that's the relation right there. And then I will argue 2 years later, 1974, one of the best Christmas horror movies ever. And we talked about it all the way back in episode 22, Black Christmas, the Canadian classic from 1974. Have you ever had a chance to sit down and watch that one? Because you weren't on the show back when we did that one.
No, that's one of the ones I did not. When we did the we did the 3rd year anniversary episode.
Yeah, well, that was way before even that. Like in the recap of that time frame too. So that was the previous.
Yeah, it was outside that time frame.
Yeah. I didn't know if you'd just seen that one outside of that or anything, but yeah.
No, I think it was from. When we did the year 3 anniversary episode? It was everything from 45 up to current date.
Yeah, so that was like November of 2020 up till like say September of 2021.
Yeah.
So yeah, when we did that one, I'm almost positive that was Christmas of we started in 2018, so that was Christmas of 2019. So that you got to go all the way back to December of 2019 when we did that one in episode 22. But I don't want to too heavily influence your opinions or anything before you get the chance to watch that. But dude, it's a terrific film. And it heavily influenced not just obviously Christmas horror, but like horror movies in general. After that, like some people have argued that it's one of if not the first slasher flicks in horror history. So it's highly influential, and you'll see a lot when you sit down and watch it. You'll see what I'm talking about. Like you'll see a lot of influence in movies that came after that from that movie. Great flick, highly recommend it. The next year you had Night Train Murders. Then 5 years later, in 1980, we got a few more. To All a Good Night, Maniac, which we recently just talked about that, or I should say in particular, Smoke just talked about that one a week or two ago on the Library of the Professor segment over on Patreon. And we've talked about that one in and out before because that one's a pretty influential slasher flick in and of itself. Now that one, though, is one of those ones where it's like, you're not really going to remember anything to do with Christmas with that one. Like it's not directly, it just so happens to be Christmas time when that movie's going on. It is not what I would say directly a Christmas horror movie, but once again, it makes the list. But Christmas Evil came out in 1980. Now that was one that we did all the way back at episode 48. So that was back in last Christmas. December of 2020 when we did that one. Now, so we did talk about that one when we did the 3rd anniversary. You, Will, and myself gave it 2.5 stars, and of course Smoke gave it 3.5 because his scores are always a little skewed, a little higher for stuff like that. But yeah, that one is what it is, man. Like it's a fun movie, and there's a lot of like intentional, or I should say unintentional, funny moments in that movie, and then the end of that movie is just total what the fuck. Without giving anything away. Go check that movie out and then go listen to episode 48 in the archives. But then a couple years later, in 1982, we got Blood Beat. Then 2 years later, we had a few more, and Don't Open Till Christmas, Gremlins, which that one's. I mean, that's definitely a Christmas horror movie, but I'd say it leans more like, would you say, like comedy, kind of action adventure than it does horror?
Yeah, I would say fantasy.
Maybe fantasy. Yeah.
Kind of adventure
but
type.
There are a lot of horror elements to it, though, that being said.
There are, yeah. And it just so happens to take place during Christmas. And this was actually the very first movie I had ever seen in theaters.
Wow.
I remember my dad took me and my brother to it.
Yeah. I think I went and saw that in the theater, but I don't remember. And I really don't recall what the first movie I saw in theaters was. I remember being real young and seeing like Disney's The Jungle Book when they like re-released it in theaters at some point in the early 80s. But that's about
the only reason I remember that this was the very first one is that my brother got absolutely like throw up sick where it was like Team America.
What now, was it because of the movie or was it because of something else?
No,
okay.
It was actually on the way home.
Yeah, okay.
It was on the way home.
Yeah, when those things happen, they definitely stick in your fucking psyche, man. You remember that forever. What'd you say, Stand By Me or
Yeah, like Stand By Me or Team America.
Yeah, Team America. Just a straight line. The Exorcist, pea soup. Then of course, same year, 1984, Silent Night, Deadly Night, which we literally just talked about last week. So if you want our thoughts on that one, or at least Smoke and I's thoughts on that one, go back and listen to last week's episode 85, Silent Night, Deadly Night, and we'll get Donnie and Will's thoughts on that one sooner or later once they get a chance to get together, and we'll watch it and we'll talk about it. The next year, 1985, you have Trancers, and then 1987, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. Then in 1988, The Brain. 89, the next year, we've got, let's see, 3 movies. 3615 Code Pierre Noel, Elves, and Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, Better Watch Out. Then in 1990, we've got Maniac Cop2. Now, this one is interesting. I found a note on this one. It is a direct sequel to Maniac Cop that takes place immediately after the events of that movie. But that movie takes place around St. Patrick's Day, right? Which obviously isn't Christmas related. But apparently in Maniac Cop 2, it clearly takes place at Christmas time, which creates a significant continuity error throughout the two movies. So go fucking figure, right? All of a sudden, the snow and the Christmas decorations moved in 2 minutes later after the movie ended. So I guess if we're ever going to do that at Christmas time, then we'll understand what the hell's going on there. But anyways, the same year, direct-to-video, you've got Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, Initiation. And then the next year, direct-to-video, Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, The Toy Maker. We talked about that briefly last week during the the Silent Night, Deadly Night episode. 4 and 5 don't have anything to do with the first three movies. At that point, I guess they were just cashing in on the title, Silent Night, Deadly Night. So apparently the first three are a connected story, and then 4 and 5 just, go out to range or something. Then in 1995, you've got The Day of the Beast. So you actually... There's a little bit of a gap there as far as like quote-unquote Christmas horror related, because you've really got, in 89, you've got those three movies that we just mentioned. Yeah. And then really it's like Maniac Cop 2, which is loosely Christmas, right? And then 2 video movies, and then all the way, you have to literally go 6 years later before there's another Christmas-related horror movie in The Day of the Beast. 1996, you've got Santa Claus, and that is spelled C-L-A-W-S, like, like cat claws. Then, of course, in 1997, you've got Jack Frost. Now, the funny thing about that is it only came out a year after the Michael Keaton family comedy called Jack Frost, because I think that was in 96, if I'm not mistaken. And then they made a horror version. I wouldn't say same version of the same movie. I mean, it's two completely different things. And Jack Frost, I don't know if you've ever seen it. That movie is fucking insane, over-the-top silliness. And they went even sillier with it a few years later when they made Jack Frost 2, Revenge of the Mutant Killer. Revenge of the Mutant Killer Snowman. That came out in 2000. So that's how we opened up the new millennium. Then the next year, you got the Christmas Season Massacre. Then a couple years later in 2003, you've got Dead End and Shredder, which that would be... your first instinct is to think that's got something to do with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but... Yeah. But nope, it doesn't. Then in 2005, we've got The Ginger Dead Man, which we are going to be talking about next week on episode 87 here on the Spook Show. So make sure you return next week to see what we got to say about The Ginger Dead Man. And hopefully Will and Professor will be here for that. All 4 of us can be in attendance, because I think that one's going to be a fucking laugh and a half. I can almost guarantee that one. And that was the, by the way, that was the November Patreon poll winner. The patrons over there actually chose that one for us. It was between that and the next one we're about to talk about, Santa's Sleigh. And then in 2015, Krampus. That was the other choice. But so yeah, Santa's Sleigh, and that one is where Bill Goldberg, the pro wrestler, plays the killer Santa Claus. So I think that one would have been a lot of fun too. But then in 2006, we've got the first remake of Black Christmas, the remake of the 1974 classic. Yeah. I've never seen that one, because there was another one in 2019, I believe it was. In 2019 there was another remake of Black Christmas. I've never seen either one of those, but I've heard pretty good, kind of mixed reactions on the one from 2006, and I haven't heard anything good, bad, or indifferent about the one from 2019. So I guess we'll get around to it eventually, and we'll find out ourselves. Yeah. So then in 2007, you got a couple, Wind Chill and Inside. Then in 2008, Ginger Dead Man 2, Passion of the Crust. Maybe that'll be one of our new little mini Christmas horror traditions. Is we'll go revisit Ginger Dead Man after next week. Every year, because there's a few of them here, and we'll get to them in just a second.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Then in 2009, you've got Deadly Little Christmas, and then Silent Night, Zombie Night. Then in 2010, you've got Rare Exports, which that was one that we talked about back in episode 21. So that was literally the episode before we did the original Black Christmas. So that would be December of 2019 when we talked about that one. That's another one that was pretty well done. Have you ever had a chance to go check that one out?
That was Rare Exports?
Yeah, that was like I want to say it was Swedish, if I recall. I mean, it's been a couple years ago. But that's like a Swedish.
I remember seeing that as far as like, when I was doing my data. No, I don't. It doesn't ring a bell.
Oh, believe me, if you've seen it, you'd remember it. So, that's one you need to swing back around and check out. Same year, there was another movie that came out called Sint, S-I-N-T, also known as Saint. Then in 2011, The Melancholy Fantastic, and that was actually re-released in 2016 as Doll in the Dark. But The Melancholy Fantastic, boy, that sounds like a fucking 1960s
honestly,
acid
that
trip.
sounds like some sort of fucking drug-fueled...
Yeah. Let's trip the Melancholy Fantastic. So then, same year, you've got Ginger Dead Man 3, Saturday Night Cleaver. The next year, you've got Silent Night. That was in 2012. Now, that is a loose remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night from 1984. So there were the first three movies tied together, then 4 and 5, the titles tied in. And then they had a complete kind of like a loose remake of the whole thing in 2012. So that's a total of 6 of those movies. And then in 2013, we have Christmas Cruelty with an exclamation point at the end of it. Same year, Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Bong. So that's what at least 4 Ginger Dead movies right there. Same year, Silent Night, Bloody Night, The Homecoming. And that is a remake of the 1972 film Silent Night, Bloody Night that we just spoke about a few minutes ago.
Silent Night, Deadly Night?
No, Silent Night, Bloody Night. The one from 1972. That's.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's
I do see it up
kind
there
of a remake of that.
All right, got it.
2015, there was a handful. We've got All Through the House, A Christmas Horror Story. The big release that year was Krampus. And then there was like the Walmart video, quote unquote, knockoff, Krampus the Reckoning. Because, that was around that time, or I guess Walmart, or I guess not directly Walmart, but they sell the things. Like whenever there's a big release of a movie, there will be some like kind of cheapo indie flick knockoff of the movie that you can buy at Walmart or Kmart or some shit. And that was one of them. Like, I think it might even have beat Krampus like to the shelves, that year. So like Krampus comes out in theaters, and then you can go over to Walmart and buy Krampus the Reckoning, which was direct to video. And then Red Christmas, which I've heard some, fairly decent reviews on that one. I've never seen it. 2016, you've got Krampus Unleashed, once again, unrelated to that, Krampus movie from the year before, and that was also direct to video. For all I know, it might have something to do with Krampus the Reckoning, but who cares? It's direct to video.
Yeah.
Same year, Better Watch Out. Now, we talked about that one last Christmas, episode 47.
Yeah, I did see that one, yeah.
Yeah, now that one was great. And when we did that in the third anniversary, when we went back and you gave your score on that one, you gave it 3 stars, and so did Smoke and I. And Will actually gave that one 3.5 stars. So that one kind of was unexpected. Like, if I recall, like once again, that was before you came on, but like if I recall, I think it was Smoke said, like, yeah, I think you guys would like that. And we sat down and watched it. And was like, wow, that was something. So,
Yeah.
highly recommend that one for sure. I mean, you heard our rankings there.
Yeah.
But go back to episode 47 for that. Then there was another holiday anthology movie in the same year called Holidays. Then in 2017, you've got Anna and the Apocalypse, I'm Dreaming of a White Doomsday, Mercy Christmas, Mother Krampus. Once again, pretty sure it's not connected to the other Krampus movie. Once Upon a Time at Christmas. And then the next year in 2018, Mother Krampus 2, Mrs. Claus, and Secret Santa. Then in 2019, you've got the third, or I should say the second remake of the 1974 classic, Black Christmas. And then you've got The Lodge. And then there were two more holiday anthology films that came out. One called Deathcember, and then one called Holiday Hell. Then just last year in 2020, Toys of Terror, It Cuts Deep, and another holiday anthology film, Happy Horror Days. And then the most recent one, just this year, Silent Night. Now, I'm not sure if that has anything to do with, like say another remake of Silent Night Bloody Night or Silent Night Deadly Night or anything, or that it's just called Silent Night. I'm not really sure about that, but that's the latest one. And honestly, as of the recording of this, I don't even know if that's actually come out yet or not. But if it has not, it's soon to come. I'm pretty sure it was like towards the beginning of December when that one was supposed to release. So I'm sure there's something we might have left out there, but that's like kind of like the whole complete list as far as like just going down the list year by year. So I guess I can, if you want to, I can kind of toss to you if you want to go down through the top grossing Christmas horror and start from the bottom up.
We'll start at number 16, which is strange, but yeah, we'll just go with that. So Dead of Night from 1945, you mentioned one of the first, if not the first, anthology movie. It didn't. There's no numbers going back then for opening, but it did gross worldwide $1,900.
$1,900
gross
worldwide.
That is
gross.
1,000. Yeah, that's basically, yeah.
Obviously, even back for 1945, there's no fucking way they made their money back.
No.
Even for the time period, there's no way.
Yeah, like my first car was like $1,000, if that.
Yeah, that's about what I paid for my first car. Yeah.
And number 15, Red Christmas. This has the excellent opening weekend of $280, and that's from 2015.
Yeah. At least in 1945, they had an excuse, but this was only 6 years ago.
No. Red Christmas, $280 opening weekend, went on to a worldwide gross of $2,300, we'll say. We'll give them a benefit of the doubt.
We'll round up and adjust for inflation.
Santa's Sleigh, Bill Goldberg, as we mentioned. There's no opening numbers for that because it was direct-to-video, but it went on to a worldwide gross of $7,000.
Yeah, now I think when I saw that one, I think that was like, it got some like random release in like the United Arab Emirates or something like that, and that's the reason that it made any money, because it didn't play here in the U.S.
Trash.
Well, I don't know. We haven't watched it. Who knows? I'm sure it's hilarious if nothing else.
I've seen it.
Look,
so,
it's got Bill Goldberg and it's got Bill Goldberg and Fran Drescher in it, so I'm sure there's got to be some stupendous scenes.
Yeah. Number 13, The Day of the Beast, 1995. No opening numbers there, but it grossed worldwide $9,800. Number 12, Silent Night from 2012. Opening weekend, $9,800.
We're starting to cook with grease here.
Right? Yeah, we're getting up there. Worldwide gross is $131,000. Number 11, Better Watch Out from 2016, which is also we covered in episode number 47. Opening weekend was $12,600, dollars, and worldwide gross was 176,300. So honestly, yeah, I think it definitely deserved to
do better than that.
Yeah, do better than that.
No
Yeah,
doubt.
it was definitely better than its numbers overall.
Yeah, I don't have the breakdown there, but usually the problem is with a lot of these movies and horror in general. Really, they just don't get a lot of screens. You know,
Yeah.
like they'll play if they're lucky if they break like 100, 200 screens. You know, nationwide here in the U.S. and maybe another 100 or two. You know, around the world. So they just don't get an opportunity to play.
Yeah, but that was still a good flick.
Yeah.
Starting with number 10, rounding out I say starting, but number 10, Wind Chill from 2007, opening weekend of $20,000 with a worldwide gross of $285,000. Number 9, Anna and the Apocalypse from 2017, opening weekend 52,500. With a worldwide gross of $673,000. Number 8, Inside from 2007. No opening numbers there, but the worldwide gross was $792,000. Haven't seen that one. Yep. Don't know much about it.
I haven't seen it either, but it will come back up here shortly.
Yeah, number 7, Silent Night, Deadly Night, which we covered in episode 85. Opening weekend was $1.4 million. Worldwide gross, $2.5 million.
Now, we went in depth into that last week when we talked about that, and since you weren't on that video or a podcast, I'm sorry, I'll revisit that just for a second. The reason that it didn't make any more than that was because it got pulled from theaters after a week, actually it was a little less than a week. It made that 1.4 in opening weekend, and I'm assuming that worldwide gross is just a little higher because it played in other countries. But that one was controversial because of the ad campaign. There were like parent councils everywhere, like, get this thing out of theaters because it was about a Santa Claus going on a rampage and killing people. They successfully got it booted from theaters. So like the other interesting thing to point out about that one, it opened up the exact same weekend as the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and it beat it. It beat it in its opening week and then got yanked. Wow. So needless to say, that would be higher on this list if it hadn't got pulled from theaters prematurely.
Right. Wow, that's interesting. That's an interesting stat. All right, number 6, Saint from 2010. No opening weekend numbers, but the worldwide gross was $3.7 million.
I think that was a French film, so that probably made all that in France, or at least most of it there.
Number 5, Rare Exports, which we covered in episode 21. From 2010. Opening weekend was $9,300, but the worldwide gross was $4 million.
Mm-hmm.
So
once again, Swedish flicks. So I think most of it was
IKEA
from that area. They screened it in IKEAs.
That's how they made all it. Anyway,
while drinking hot chocolate.
No, meatballs.
Yeah.
Swedish meatballs.
Eating Swedish meatballs.
So number 4, Black Christmas from 2019. This would essentially be the 3rd remake.
Yes, or the 2nd remake, but the 3rd version. Yeah.
Yeah. So opening weekend, $4.2 million, with a worldwide gross of $19 million.
Finally getting up to some really respectable numbers here.
Yeah. Something you can really sink your teeth into and be proud of if you're, part of the cast or crew. But number 3, getting into the top 3, top grossing Christmas horror. Number 3, Black Christmas, the original remake, I guess, from 2006. Opening weekend was $3.7 million with a worldwide gross of $21.5 million.
So not quite. It didn't open quite as good as the 2019 one, but still, it beat it out. It beat it out in the overall gross there by a couple million.
Number 2. Krampus from 2015. Now, the opening weekend was $16.3 million, and the worldwide gross was $61.5 million. The top grossing Christmas horror movie of all time, Gremlins from 1984. Opening weekend, $12.5 million. Worldwide gross, $153.6 million.
Now, once again, that kind of goes back to how you want to look at it. Like, do you consider which one do you consider? I would consider Krampus more pure horror than I would Gremlins. So if you want to look at it that way, Krampus is the highest grossing Christmas horror. But there are a lot of horror elements to Gremlins, like we talked about. So it takes the title. But that's split,
to me, Gremlins is not a horror movie. I'm sorry, not a Christmas horror movie. Honestly, it's not. To me, it's not even really a horror movie.
I mean, like I said, there's a lot of elements there. So there's an argument to be made. It's kind of like, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? A lot of people say,
there is.
There's that argument.
That's another thing.
Either way, right? So I think if you're just going like pure horror, Krampus gets the nod. But Gremlins, there's a lot of horror element there. So we'll let it go. And obviously that's one of the more successful films in general as far as horror related, quote unquote, of the entire 80s. All right, so the last little bit that I've got here is these are the highest rated Christmas horror movies based on Rotten Tomatoes ratings list. Number 13, you've got Silent Night from 2012. That was the loose remake or whatever of Silent Night, Deadly Night. That one had a rating of 64 on the tomato meter. And I will say all these are fairly high as far as the tomato meter goes. Like I think generally speaking, like say, obviously anything over 50%, but I think like once you get into that 60, 70% on the tomato meter, you've got a pretty good flick on your hands as far as like, their aggregate scoring is concerned. So all these are pretty, 64 and up, obviously. Number 12 is Krampus from 2015. So obviously it was the number 2 grossing movie, but it's only number 12 on the ratings list. It got a 67%. Number 11, and I really don't agree with this. Black Christmas from 1974 only got 71% on Rotten Tomatoes. I do not agree with that. I'm not saying it's a perfect movie, but some of these other ones that are ranked higher than that, no fucking way. And you'll see when you watch that movie. I'm telling you, dude, there's no fucking way. And I'm sure if Smoke were here, he'd be fucking outraged with me. Trust me. Number 10, The Lodge from 2019, so that was only a couple years old, 74%. Number 9, Dead End from 2003, 75%. Number 8, Christmas Evil from 1980, which I was surprised. I really was surprised that it had a rating of 75% on the tomato meter. And also surprised that it had a higher rating than Black Christmas. That is crazy. That is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I know it's only 4%, but still, what the fuck? Number 7, The Day of the Beast, 1995, also 75%. Number 6, Anna and the Apocalypse from 2017, 77%. So apparently, not only is it number 9 on the top grossing movies, but it's number 6 on the highest rated. So apparently, we got to get around to Anna and the Apocalypse one of these days. 77%. Number 5. So this is the top 5 now. A Christmas Horror Story from 2015 got an 83% right on the tomato meter. Number 4, Inside from 2007. I remember I said that was number 8 on the grossing list. Here it is again. It's number 4 on the highest rated list, 85%. Also with 85%, number 3, Gremlins from 1984. So the highest grossing movie by far is only number 3 on this list. It gets beat out by the top 2. Both of these movies we have reviewed here on the podcast. Yep. Number 2, Better Watch Out from 2016 on episode 47, got 89%. And number 1, Rare Exports from 2010, which we did on episode 21, got 90%. So I'm not saying those were bad. I enjoyed both those movies. I really did. But to say they're better than Black Christmas, I don't know. I don't know about that one. But hey, whatever. That's Rotten Tomatoes for you. It's a critic review aggregate. So these are the critics talking, and the critics usually don't look at things quite the same as we would, right? So, yeah. So yeah, I mean, basically that pretty much, I know we threw a lot of numbers at you with the grosses and the ratings and all that stuff and listing all the movies, but like that's about the only way you can cover it when you're doing kind of a comprehensive overview of all these movies. That's a lot of shit. And I wish once again that, Professor Smoke could have been here at least, because he could have went in depth on some of these movies that we don't know as much about. But so there you go. I mean, plenty to choose from there. If you're kind of looking through the streaming services or, looking to rent something or whatever, We've given you plenty of choices as far as the highest rated, the ones that were the most successful financially, and just all the lists in general. And then, of course, all the episodes that we've done in the past couple of years, back in 2019 and 2020, there were at least 4 episodes in the past, from past Christmases. And then We just last week did Silent Night, Deadly Night, and then this week, episode 87, we're going to do the Ginger Dead Man. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be, I think hilarity will ensue next week. So make sure to come back for that. So yeah, that's really all we got for this week. So like I said, next week, episode 87, the Ginger Dead Man, and then episode 88, which comes out 2 days after Christmas. That will be on December 27th. That is going to be our 2021 year in review, where we're not going to be reviewing what we've talked about on the podcast. This is going to be about the year that was horror in 2021. We're going to kind of wrap the year up, and we'll talk about a lot of the movies that all of us have seen. So, Donnie, I guess you got to catch up on some 2021 flicks between now and then. I've been trying to hit some of the highlights myself. That way I'm not left in the dust as far as when we start talking about some of these movies that have come out, because there's been some good ones, and we've talked about a couple of shiners too. So, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. So, we'll see. How that's going to go in a couple weeks. So that's kind of what we've got coming up before the new year. So, like I said, the Ginger Dead Man next week, 2021 year in review to wrap up the year, and then our first episode of the year will be episode 89, which will be like an older movie release, which we haven't quite decided on yet. And then, of course, there's going to be the Patreon poll for one of the other movies that we're going to watch in the month of January. So, lots in the queue, lots coming up. So stay tuned for all that. So, for Will and the Professor, and of course Donnie, I'm Josh. We are the All-American Spook Show Horror Podcast, and we will talk to you next week.
Please replace the speaker on its rack when you're ready to leave. Failure to do so will damage both the speaker and your car. We'll be grateful, and so will the patrons who follow you.